Well, hello and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I am your host, Daren, Jaime. And of course, we thank you for joining us. Today, we'll update you what's happening in and around our community, our city, and definitely the borough of the Bronx. Coming up on the show, we discuss the vital role of mammography in detecting breast cancer and its impact on saving lives. Next, we'll learn how several organizations are helping students and their families navigate high school admissions process, as well as some of the challenges they face. Then we'll talk about how one hunger relief organization is tackling food insecurity among veterans. We'll introduce you to a very special young man that's coming up a little bit later on in the show. Then afterwards, we'll discuss the importance of consulting healthcare providers when using over-the-counter medicines and their potential impact on blood pressure. Finally, we'll explore how one organization empowers families navigating the challenges of disability. So stay tuned, because all this and much more is heading your way, because right now we're officially open. And hello, everyone. I am Daren, Jaime. You're now watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We also want to welcome our viewers to Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is being broadcast live simultaneously on the MNN channel. We will tell you that you can also stay connected to all of our social media platforms at BronxNet TV. Well, some things have been going on through the course of the past week. We'll take you through them with our Bronx updates. We start off with city news. New York City Mayor Eric Adams enacted a groundbreaking bill mandating that all city-owned vehicles go electric by the year 2038. Now, this action forms part of the city's broader commitment to reduce emissions and champion sustainability. The mayor stated, quote, "Zero-emission vehicles mean cleaner air for all New Yorkers, fewer greenhouse emissions, and cost savings on fuel and maintenance are just a real win-win." In addition, the mayor unveiled plans for 4 solar carports to be installed at New York City Housing Authority properties. These installations will enable residents and staff to charge their electric vehicles with renewable energy. In other news, the Knowledge House recently organized the Summit on Equity, Digital Equity to be exact, at our new BronxNet Media Studio in La Centrale in the South Bronx. Our BronxNet reporter, Kyrie Moody, has a story.
The Knowledge House hosts a digital equity summit at BronxNet New Media and Technology Studios at La Centrale, South Bronx. The summit included food and refreshments, resources, networking opportunities, and facts about digital equity across the 5 boroughs.
Digital equity can mean so many different things, but for me, it's about equity for all, in whatever that means, whether it's equity in terms of innovation, equity in how you think, equity in how you access information or access physical devices.
Digital equity is the concept in which every person should have equal access to technology such as the internet. Digital equity aims to address the divide in access to digital infrastructure that gives some people advantages over others. Jody of Vanell speaks on women in technology and why having a woman's touch in tech is important.
Shout out to all of the amazing female leaders that are out there doing their thing. I think it's important to have representation in the tech space. Based on the reports that we've seen, especially with people of color, we are kind of excluded from this industry. And so to have myself and other women and other people of color representing the industry is critically important.
The Bronx Community Foundation also attended and participated in the summit. Rose DeStefano is a consultant there and tells us about the foundation and its mission.
Digital equity was a huge part of our effort, getting computers and internet access to, especially to students who were then doing remote learning. And it had been about, I guess, maybe 2 years of that relief effort, just trying to help folks with housing and folks that were coming out of the criminal justice system to land on their feet when the supports weren't there.
We are fighting for the Bronx to have digital equity with other boroughs that are more advanced, such as Manhattan. To find out more about organizations and resources, visit our website at www.bronxnet.org. Reporting for BronxNet, Kyrie Moody.
And Kyrie, thank you. That is all the time we have for our Bronx updates. We are taking a quick break, but guess what? We got a full open show coming up for you right after this.
Those hiring algorithms was screaming out.
Some bosses couldn't see me as a leader.
I've run this place for 20 years, but I still need to prove that I'm more than what you see on paper.
I've been writing code as long as I've been able to reach a keyboard.
This is what I do. It's second nature for me, coordinating 100 details at once.
The way my mind works, I have a very mechanical brain.
I sold them on my skills.
You gotta be so good they can't ignore you.
My magic is
analytics and empathy. That's how I'm getting clients. You have to have the confidence in yourself to show up and defy the odds.
I'm more than who I am on paper.
I never got a college degree. And today, I'm the CEO of my own company. People want to tell me I'm one in a million, when actually I'm one of millions. Stars are all around us. It's time for them to shine.
And welcome back to the show. For nearly 50 years, mammography has been the primary tool for detecting breast cancer, contributing significantly to the decline in breast cancer deaths since the year 1990. Now, studies indicate 2/3 of this reduction is due to mammography screening. Understanding the facts about mammograms could actually save lives. And joining us and sharing further information, we've got the medical director of women's imaging for the national radiology provider at RadNet. We're pleased to have Dr. Jacqueline Holt back with us again. And Dr. Holt, good to have you.
Good morning. Good to see you again. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. And when we talk about mammograms, obviously, for some people, it's a word that a lot of hesitancy. But the reality is that in order to stay healthy, really, mammographies are really essential in the life of a woman.
So I'm really glad to hear that you brought up mammograms have been saving lives for 50 years. And I think there's a very interesting piece of information regarding the studies that proved that mammography was saving lives were done in the 1970s and 80s. And these studies showed good results, but they can never really be repeated again because they were randomized controlled, and you were putting women into groups where they get mammography or don't get mammography. And because there was such efficacy, everybody started to recommend mammography. Now, the important thing is that these mammograms that were done 40 years ago or 30 years ago, we have come such a long way with technique and quality. It's almost night and day. So that the fact that these studies showed such a good reduction at that time, and we're doing much, much better, and including with what is hitting now, which I think is kind of revolutionary. It's the artificial intelligence, which I think is the future for mammography also.
When we talk about the future of mammography, we are projecting that things will obviously get better. And the reason why is because we know that more and more people are getting screened and more people are taking advantage of these screenings. But let's be honest, there's still this thing called mammography hesitancy. There are people who have hesitancy, people who are trying to debunk some of the myths and the stereotypes that are associated with it. But let's talk about what are some of the myths that I think that maybe we're having when it comes to mammographies and, the exams to keep people from getting into your office?
Well, I'll start with, I'm going to end with what I think is the most, one of the most important myths, but let me start with, there's ideas that it hurts. It is compression, and the more compression decreases the dose. And it's only for about 3 seconds that you're in any one image with that compression. So I would call it uncomfortable, not painful. Radiation, there's, just to put it, if there's hesitancy regarding radiation, there's radiation all around us on the planet. We are just getting radiation constantly just from living on the planet's surface. So a mammogram is equivalent to approximately 7 weeks of just living on the planet. So it's very low dose, and the harms are very low and from radiation, and the results are very good for getting a mammogram. One thing that I hear women say is, I have no family history. I am not at high risk. And that's a misconception, in that the vast majority of women who get breast cancer have no family, no history in their family for breast cancer. So leading into, when do we begin screening? And these studies that were done 40 years ago that we rely on all show favorability of starting at, the most lives are saved starting at age 40, and then annual every year. What I think is very important for our community is to realize our at-risk population are African Americans. They women in African American heritage have a higher mortality rate, 40% higher. That doesn't mean, 40% death rate. What that means is 40% higher compared to white women and women of Asian descent. And one of the things that we have found out that I don't think the public is as much aware of is that in the African American community, there are these higher risk cancers that are found. They're called triple negatives. And what triple negative means is that they don't have receptors for estrogen, progesterone, these hormones that our medicines can help with. So these are the more aggressive, these are the cancers that grow quicker and start earlier. African-American women have, I'm looking at my statistics, I want to get this right. For the triple negatives, it's 21% in African-Americans compared to their white counterparts.
Yeah. Let me jump in and ask this question here, because I think this is very important, because a lot of people self-diagnose, right? And we hear a lot of women go out and say, listen, I've self-tested, and talk to me about that self-test versus getting in there and getting your a real mammography. Are
you talking about a breast exam, like feeling your breast?
Yes.
Yeah. The hand's a very blunt tool. Why I'll say, if you feel a lump, we should take that very seriously. So, but that is nowhere near as effective as mammography. And in fact, the latest recommendations do not recommend, they recommend knowing your breast, but not this like monthly examining your breast, because it is so blunt and not really effective. Different if you go into your physician and they do a clinical breast exam, because that is more thorough. And another misconception I can lead into this is cancers can hide in dense breast tissue. So more important to have a good clinical breast exam by your physician along with the mammogram.
Yeah. And so as we get ready to wrap things up, what are the main things that people need to know in 30 seconds or less, so that way we can send them home with some great information? Not that that's been provided already isn't great.
Annual screening at 40. Go to a center that has the highest resolution equipment, is doing 3D mammograms. And if you are able to get artificial intelligence applied, there is what we are seeing great benefit.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Jacqueline Holt, as always, great information. Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's important that people know the importance of mammographies and also debunking some of these myths and stereotypes that can really hopefully get people into a doctor's office and potentially save lives. So thank you for...
Or just come to the center. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Yeah, we want them to come to the center. Now, listen, if you want more information, visit the website at radnet.com. There you can get your way there, or follow them on Facebook at RadNet INC. We encourage you don't go anywhere. We got more open coming up right after this.
I'll see y'all.
After a basketball game, a black teenage boy, Brandon, reads this text in his family group chat. Auntie Flo, congrats on the big win. Mom, that's my baby. Brandon replies, thanks y'all. In a park, his sister Maya texts, where are we celebrating? Dad replies, home. Mom texts, I got dinner going. Auntie Flo replies, ooh, I can't wait. Then receives a FEMA flood watch text alert. She texts the family, anyone see that weather alert? We need a plan to stay safe, especially after last year. Ready has a list of resources at ready.gov/plan. In his workshop, Dad sends a photo of emergency supplies and texts, looks like we need flashlights and batteries, leaving a store with a shopping bag. Brandon replies, I got us covered. Mom texts, I'll check in with Grandma and Papa. Maya texts, thanks Auntie, feeling good about this plan.
I got some batteries and 2 flashlights.
What's up, Chad? I feel like you get taller every time I see you.
Stay connected.
Congratulations, Brandon.
And we are back here on Open. We're currently in the midst of a challenging high school admission season in New York City. Tens of thousands of students that are actually, and specifically 8th graders, exploring their options, touring different high schools, completing applications, and then gearing up for specialized high school admissions test schedule. Several organizations are actually offering comprehensive help to support students in the Bronx and their families to really be able to navigate through this process. And joining me now, I've got the program director at WHEDco, Nicole Jennings, and academic program director at the New York Junior Tennis and Learning. We've got Raiyan, Nafee, and we thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, and so Nicole, I think I'll start with you. I mean, first off, it's a, as I said in the intro, it's a little bit of a rough season for some students, but WHEDco has really done a great job of really trying to navigate students through this, through some of their after-school programs and programs. So give us a little insight here.
Sure. So WHEDco is a nonprofit based in the Bronx, and one of the things we do is support students through all kinds of education, and one of them is through the high school process, which can be incredibly challenging, complicated, a lot of information for families to metabolize. The high school admissions process has moved from something that students do and families do with a guidance counselor to solely the family's responsibility. So that has put an added element of stress on families to really understand how to navigate the high school admissions process in New York City. So we really try to support students in every way we can by staying up to date with the changes and giving them the information and the updates that they need in order to succeed in this process.
And Raiyan, I know that there's the Scholar Athletes program sponsored by your organization. Talk to us a little bit about the Scholar Athletes program and how that works.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. But to tell you guys a little bit about the Scholar Athlete program, so I work up in Crotona Park at the Carey Lead Center with the Scholar Athlete program. So the Scholar Athlete program is donor funded. We work with about 75 students. They're all in grades 3 to 12. The students are low income. They come from all across New York City. And really, we do have a large number of students from the Bronx area. And, we work with students. We give them tennis, life skills, and fitness training. But along with that, we really focus on that scholar and scholar athlete. So we give them academic support. And, with our 8th grade students, as they're preparing for this high school admissions process and they're going through it, really giving them some time some meetings, and you're just getting them through the process and getting them a better understanding of what they need to do to get into these competitive high schools.
And either one of you can jump in on this one here, but for a parent, we know that, it's just hard enough to navigate day to day. When you're talking about really trying to get someone into high school, some people think, well, that's not too hard. But the reality is, for a lot of parents, difficulty there, the application process, knowing what to do, how to go about that. But I know that you spend time really trying to help parents navigate that. So what resources are out there to help parents to be able to navigate what could be one of the toughest times in their lives?
I'm happy to jump in. So there are a lot of resources. One of my favorites is insideschools.org. It's a great resource. I think it's about 20 years old. It's been around. It's completely independent of the Department of Education. So it's very parent focused. They have videos for parents to watch on the general admissions process. They have tips. They have a forum for parents so that they can ask questions. It's a really great independent resource with reviews, information about schools, virtual tours, that I think is a really great guide for parents in New York City through the complicated process.
Yeah. And then when we talk about this process, what are some of the things that people, well, I'll say common problems, common challenges that are being faced by parents as well as students during this time?
Well, listen, I think the first thing is immediately, it's a new process relatively where students are applying online. So just navigating a website, the platform of my schools, and just, figuring out their numbers on there. Students have lottery numbers, their priority groups, so figuring out what does that mean for your student. And then, using that to say, I'm going to apply to these schools that I match to or I fulfill the requirements for. And then even understanding that certain schools, they might have different percentages of seats allocated. So, where do I fall in that seat? And then just navigating that and saying, I need to build this list of schools. How do I do that? So just being very careful and, being very thoughtful about that list you're making.
Never want to downplay the fact that picking a high school can be sometimes an overwhelming process for parents, particularly if you've never done it and you've never been through it before. Give me some insight and give our viewers some possible groundwork here in terms of, what am I looking for? What are some of the factors when making that decision for the right educational institution for their child? What should people be looking towards?
I can jump in. Sorry. Yeah. I think firstly, you want to really consider where the school is. So commute. I think that's a big factor. Students are in 8th grade now. They're going to be in high school. Are they okay taking the train, the bus? Do they want to be walking distance? Right. And then along with that, you want to kind of look at extracurriculars. So, I work with students who love the sport of tennis. And so they want to go to competitive tennis teams in the tri-state, in New York City. But then along with that, they're interested in other sports like track and field, football, basketball. So they want to be there playing those sports. And then, just getting into clubs and doing robotics and music, different things like that. So really just putting all of those things together to make that list and looking through those options when they're applying.
Nicole, you want to add in? I'm going to ask you because, for yourself, really putting a program together that really corrals all of this and brings this opportunity for parents as well as students to be able to navigate is really, is really powerful. Talk to us about how people can really access the resources and be a part of this.
Sure. So I really think time is the biggest privilege here in New York City for parents. And if they if you put in the time to, find out what the resources are, there are not just public schools. Charter schools are gaining a lot of traction and doing some really high quality education. I have 2 teenage high school age students who go to a charter school here in Brooklyn. And so there are scholarship opportunities for private and parochial schools throughout the city. So, really understanding the depth of all of the options outside of just the list of 12, I think is also something that a lot of parents don't think is available to them, but it's And it actually is. We have quite a few students who I work with who get scholarships to private schools, go off to charter schools, scholarships to parochial schools or Catholic schools. There are programs and there are opportunities out there that are available to families outside of the public school system.
Yeah. And Raiyan, I know that there are requirements. Excuse me, when you have high school students, they're going through this process, and there comes a whole shipload, literally, of requirements. Some may be familiar with, some not so familiar with. How are we navigating those students through some of the required things that are demanded of them, because they're taking a step up, and sometimes that in itself is just overwhelming?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially with a lot of these schools, they want to get to know the student holistically, and the best way to do that with so many students applying is to do assessments that they might have to take online. They might ask students to submit essays, to do video statements, to create portfolios if they're applying in the arts. So you really want to take a look at those opportunities and check the website of these schools, see what they're asking for, and just make sure you're focusing on the prompts and the questions that they're asking. And then from there, making yourself look the best. And so with us, we take that time to really revise and, give the students the best version of themselves when they're offering themselves to these schools.
Yeah. And before we wrap up, I do want to talk about this, because for students, I also know that this is a special time of year, the specialized high school assessment test. I see Nicole shaking her head. People are really getting ready to gear up for that. How are you navigating them through that? Because that is, I was talking to some students about this before. They're like, I'm really, I'm just going to try my best. But, they really are really anxious about it.
Yeah, I mean, the city has programs like the DREAM program, which does test prep with students. That's very focused on taking practice tests and helping them understand what the mistakes that they made and going through the correct answers. One of the things that we really do that's, I think, really valuable is we partner with an organization called Bespoke Education that brings in a tutor to help our students really develop test prep skills. So ways to help them eliminate answers quickly, for example, is also something that I think is really important and helps serve them in all tests that they take. So test prep strategies are really give students an advantage to the specialized high school exam, because really at the end of the day, whether they get a spot at those schools, it only depends on how well they do on that exam.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly keep our eyes looking and seeing how students are faring. But thank you both for the resources that are being provided, not just for students, but for parents to really be able to navigate this process. And Raiyan and Nicole, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah.
Excuse me. Allergies, But here, I want to let you know that if you want more information, don't hesitate to visit the website at WHEDco.org. We got more show coming up. Don't go anywhere. Open continues coming up right after this.
We all know what it's like to feel alone. But it just takes one new connection. Want to get out of here? To empower many.
This is unbelievable.
It doesn't take a superhero to bring forces together. We all have the power to reach out.
Let's go!
And help someone feel like they belong.
Pretty cool, huh?
We are stronger together.
And welcome back. During this year's November celebration of Veterans Day, it's important to recognize the often overlooked difficulties our veterans encounter, such as limited access to nourishing meals. The Food Bank of New York City is actually contributing and remaining committed to assisting the families as well as the service members, and also providing much needed assistance. Joining me now at the warehouse, or I should say is the warehouse professional at Food Bank for New York City. We're pleased to have Kwadwo Bland, and he's with us. And Kwadwo, good to have you.
No, good morning. Thank you for having me.
No, really, first thing I want to do is I want to thank you, because you have been a serviceman, 3 tours, over in Iraq. And so first and foremost, I want to thank you for your service to the country.
Roger that. Roger that. Thank you.
No, and talk to me about, why did you decide even to want to serve in the military?
First of all, in school, I remember something that John F. Kennedy once said: "Ask not what your country could do for you, but what you could do for your country." That pretty much stuck with me. I'm also from a military family. My grandfather, my father, and I chose the Army because the Army is the best branch. Not just because everybody else my family was, but I like the Army politics, the character, and the way they do things, the camaraderie, and things of that nature. So the military was just a way to give back to what this country's done for us. And I mean, I know we have a history and everything. Everybody says this and that about the United States, but I don't see anybody leaving it. Anybody's still here.
Yeah.
So, I just love it. That's all.
As we say around the way, facts. Now, let me talk to you about where we are right now, because you go out, you serve your country, you're involved in war, and in many ways, you deserve a hero's welcome. But the reality is when many veterans come back, they don't necessarily get that welcome. And sometimes they're almost a foreigner in their own country. Right. And when we talk about this thing called like food insecurity, it blows my mind to be a veteran and still have to worry about just the basic necessities of food.
Right. I mean, it's just a sad situation, everything, because when you're in the military, you get ready to transition to the civilian world. They have this thing called ACAP, and it prepares you to readjust to civilian life. Now, I can't speak for every veteran. You have some veterans that are strong, some veterans that are weak. It could be for mental illness or, families that, the marriage broke up or anything of that nature. But, you just got to go out there and try. Sometimes when people tell me no, that just gives me strength. Like, okay, yeah, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. So it's sad, with the reception, a lot of people don't, approve of the things that we've done over there. And they look down upon us, just like, same thing when my dad came back from Vietnam, baby killers, et cetera, et cetera. But, hunger is always a situation. You just got to really, really try to put forth the effort. Look at your resources, call your local VA, even your DAV. There's always ways to open doors. Every door has a key. You just got to get it. You just got to get out there and strive for it.
Yeah. So for yourself, talk to me about the work that you're doing here at Food Bank and really trying to bridge the gap of food insecurity, particularly for veterans like your brothers and sisters, I should say.
Oh, you talking about my position here at Food Bank?
Yeah.
Is that what I do? Basically, I'm a warehouse professional. My job pretty much is palletizing pallets for the next day's shipment. Everything that we pick today is being shipped out for tomorrow. Depending on what the agencies require, certain things that you might need, their dairy products, the dry products, your meats, refrigerated items, fruits, vegetables, produce. And we even carry stuff such as for new mothers, babies, baby diapers, and baby products, female products, et cetera, et cetera. Everything goes on here at Food Bank. Food Bank, I don't really consider it a job. It's more like a career to me. It's a second career. I love it here. It's beautiful. And plus, as a native New Yorker, I'm still giving back.
Man, he's still serving. And I mean,
still serving.
Big shout out to you. When you look at the work that's being done for yourself and really delivering into the lives of veterans and other people, what's that impact like on the other side when you have actually delivered unto other people? Talk to me about the impact.
Oh, man, it's just, I can't even really express it, man. Even right now, just like, even the question you just asked me made me think back of a situation when we pulled up at this one agency, the line was long, people, just cheering us as we was pulling up and everything, it's an overwhelming feeling, what I'm saying? It's a beautiful feeling. It's just, I don't know, it's a vibe that, you're doing something, rather than, these people out there trying to feed their kids, wonder where it's going to come from, where, and here we are right here, no questions asked, we just ask you to be there, pick up the food, and, see you tomorrow.
Yeah. And so for yourself as a veteran, do you feel as though the services are really out there to really help you to, get back in? I mean, we're living in wartime right now, seeing what's going on in Israel, Palestine, what's going on in Africa, the genocide. We're living in some real treacherous times. But for the people who've been out there in the service arena, to be able to have their needs met, talk to me about that. I mean, how do you feel about that right now? What's needed?
I mean, it hurts, to be honest with you. I mean, I can't really speak too much on the political side of everything, but you know, we all had to come to the realization, like, you know, enough is enough. You know, this planet is big enough for everybody. You know, we just got to learn to share. We all had the same borders. We might not agree on certain things, but it's always a negotiation table to come down and sit down and talk. But we all need to eat. We all need nourishment. We all need our resources, shelter, clothing. You know, we just got to put aside our differences and just realize that. And hopefully this younger generation, they could evolve to understand that, because that way it'll carry over to their generation when they have children. So, you know, at some point, this just really has to stop, though. But it's a hurtful situation what's going on over there in the Middle East. You know, it's hurtful, very hurtful.
Yeah. And so as we look at food insecurity, I mean, obviously, does it ever astound you? I mean, working right there, you know, front and center, does it ever astound you that we're in New York and the amount of people that really are hungry and desperate for food in the city that never sleeps? There's always somebody that's hungry.
Always. It's always somebody that's hungry. Even when you're transiting back and forth to work and everything, you know, I take the train and everything, and somebody always has their hand out. If I have something on me, I'll give back to them, or I might just refer them to go to this pantry or this church. You know, these people will help you. But sadly, some people don't want that advice. You know what I mean? They're looking for a little something on the side, or, you know, something to ease that pain, you know, or suffering from that hunger that they're currently having at the moment. But, you know, I don't judge. You know, if I give you some money, you know, I'm telling you what to do with it. But, you know, you might even go buy a pack of cigarettes or a beer or something. But you just gotta, you know, within yourself, you just can't give up. You know,
right?
I don't know if I really pretty much hit that answer that question on the head, though. But
no, you hit it on the head. You know, right. I was reading somewhere about you, and you were talking a little bit about your work, and you worked in the military police in the service, and it's kind of like you find some of the similar things in what you're doing right now. In the area of just service. Talk to me about that before we go.
Well, I mean, I follow God's direction and everything, because when I first went into the Army and everything, I wasn't planning on becoming a military police officer. I wanted to get into communications, but, you know, being a police officer and everything, that opened up a new idea on what to do and another way to always help the community and stuff. I've always been a person that doesn't think about himself, you know. I'd rather, because I know what it's like to suffer. I've been in that situation before. When I got out the military and I came back to New York, guess what? Is at the height of the COVID epidemic, and I fell into a situation. So trust me, everything that I know that's going on out there, I've experienced firsthand, and I just want to give back. Just like I said before, everything that we do right here at Food Bank, where we palletize our pallets, it's like, it's a crazy feeling. Even right now, I'm feeling little bubbles inside and everything. I want to tear up a little bit, but I get emotional when I do stuff like this. It's just a warm feeling.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I want to let you know, I mean, we really appreciate the work that you've done. Serving our community in food deserts, more importantly, serving our nation and the work that you put in. And sometimes you don't get the thank you. Sometimes you don't get the appreciation. You didn't get, you know, you didn't make the choice to go over there. You were sent over there.
Yeah, I was sent over.
Yeah. And you followed orders and you did what you did and you served your nation. And we want to say thank you. And again, thank you for serving this community. It's been a pleasure and an honor to have you here with us today, Kwadwo. So keep up the great work, brother.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
All right. Kwadwo Bland is our guest here, and he is also the warehouse professional at Food Bank for New York City. Want to encourage you, if you want more information about Food Bank, do me a favor, go to their website, foodbanknyc.org, and then also follow them on social media, Food Bank for NYC. We're encouraging, don't go anywhere. We do have more show coming up. Stay with us. Open continues right after this.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
Bro, you gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's a white people thing.
Escúchame, en esta casa, los hombres no lloran.
You alright?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
Thanks for hearing me out, bro. Appreciate it.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad. Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
And welcome back to the show. According to the American Heart Association, almost 50% of American adults suffer from elevated blood pressure, which is a major contributor for heart disease as well as stroke. Now, shockingly, just only 30% of adults in the United States have discussed the potential impact of the common over-the-counter pain relievers on their blood pressure with their healthcare providers. Now, joining me now to share a little bit more is the Chief Clinical Science Officer at the American Heart Association. We're pleased to be joined by Dr. Mitch Elkind, and we thank you so much, Dr. Elkind, for being with us.
Well, thank you, Daren, for having me and the Heart Association on your show today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to get at this here because when we talk about over-the-counter, you know, it's pretty common. Everybody goes to get over-the-counter medicine, and we think it's just the right thing to do sometimes. But the reality is that when we talk about over-the-counter medicine and you're dealing with high blood pressure and things such as that nature, it's always important to really consult a physician.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think we have this idea that if you can get it over the counter, it's not going to have any adverse effects. But that's not entirely true. And especially for people with high blood pressure, those medications can raise the blood pressure further and in some cases to dangerous levels. And so we really want people to know about it because there may be alternatives to those medications that they can choose, and good to discuss that with their primary doctor.
And also, if you have pre-existing conditions, I think that's also something that really has to, you know, come into factor here too.
Absolutely. Heart disease, a history of stroke, blood vessel disease in other parts of the body similarly can be an issue. And so for sure, you want to check that out with your doctor and measure the blood pressure regularly. So these days, people can get home blood pressure monitors that are validated, that are accurate, and that way you can check your blood pressure at home. And if it starts to go up, then take action, call the doctor, change behavior as needed to try to bring it back down.
You touched upon these devices here, and I think they're very critical, right? When people are sometimes prescribed and told to get it, or they feel like they want to get one themselves, the home blood pressure device, how valuable a tool is that?
Very valuable. So a lot of work that the Heart Association has seen recently and that we've published on has indicated that when people monitor their blood pressure at home, they get a better estimate of what their blood pressure is over the course of a day. You know, your blood pressure changes with lots of different activities. That information is useful for the doctor in adjusting the dose and sometimes the timing of somebody's medications. So those are useful. There are lots of devices out there, though, and so there's actually a website called validatebp.org where you can look up which devices are really the best to use, because you want to get good information, not just any information.
Yeah. You know, the older we get, the more we've got some challenges in life. The body just doesn't operate the same way that it used to. And then we find ourselves trying to sometimes self-medicate. And one of those things we do, we use aspirin, pain relievers. But talk to us about those things pretty much. And I'll stick more closer to pain relievers. How does it affect one's blood pressure and the potential outcomes there?
Yeah, so the pain medications that you can get over the counter that are most concerning for us are what we call the NSAIDs, NSAID. That's non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and they're medications like ibuprofen, naproxen, and others in that family, and even aspirin, frankly, can fall into that category as well. And so they can, especially if you use a lot of them or use them over a long period of time, they can affect the kidneys and lead to increases in blood pressure through that mechanism. And there may be alternatives like acetaminophen, which may be a safer bet for some people. But again, best to talk to your doctor about that. And then there are the cold remedies as well, which can have stimulants in them that can directly raise the blood pressure. And so alternatives there are cold remedies that don't have those stimulants in them. And people can look at the packages. Some say, you know, this is okay for people with blood pressure, this is not. And so you can actually see which ones may be right for you. And if you have any questions, of course, you talk to your doctor about that.
Yeah, you're leaning into something, which is warning signs, symptoms. What are the things that I should be paying attention to really get myself in the right kind of direction, Dr. Elkind?
So most of the time, the impact on blood pressure of these medications is pretty modest. So people wouldn't notice a change in symptoms because, again, it's important to know your numbers. And that's where these home monitors, for example, come in handy, or getting your blood pressure checked in the neighborhood pharmacy or a gym. So keeping an eye on it can be helpful. But there are some instances where the blood pressure does get so high, that people can have symptoms. And the symptoms to look out for in those cases would be headaches, blurred vision, dizziness, lightheadedness, even chest pain, because the heart has to pump so hard against that elevated blood pressure, it puts strain on the heart. So if those things are happening, if you're experiencing, those kinds of symptoms, headaches, chest pain, then for sure you need to get checked out immediately. It really is considered an emergency because it can lead to stroke very quickly. So that's what I would say. Get it checked out if you have those symptoms.
And I think the message is really like to be proactive rather than reactive, right? And I think that so many times people are pretty reactive, but the reality is we want to see people on the proactive side.
100%. We put it off, and we put it off, we put it off. So that's why getting control of your health, knowing your numbers, figuring out a plan with the doctor, keeping a log of blood pressures that you can show the doctor, or these days with the home monitoring devices, many of them will allow you to send the information to the doctor. It can be even put directly into the electronic health record, and people can, and the doctor can access it there. So, these are ways to try to stay on top of it.
Yeah. And what are some of the common mistakes that you think people are making during this season when it comes to this?
Well, we know that there are a number of what we call behavioral things people can do to control their blood pressure. Eating a healthy diet, less sodium in the diet. We advise for a Mediterranean-style diet, or what we say is a DASH diet, which is low in sodium. That's dietary approaches to stop hypertension. So those are good diet patterns. Getting enough physical activity, even walking is very good for the heart and lets people live longer. So we recommend 30 minutes 5 times a week, 150 minutes a week of moderate, at least, activity. Limiting alcohol intake as well. Alcohol can increase the blood pressure. Obviously, we're coming into holiday season, not quite yet, but I guess we'll have Thanksgiving this month now. So those are things, the holidays is a time where we tend to let down our guard. We drink more, we're going to parties, we're eating less healthy, maybe not getting as much exercise, especially in, areas where it's a little colder, like here in New York. So I think, those are the challenges that we face this time of year. And so being kind of doubling down on those, being mindful of our health is really important.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Elkind, I want to thank you so much for taking the time of being with us. Much needed advice, and hopefully people will heed to it. And we thank you so much. He is the Chief Clinical Science Officer at the American Heart Association. And we thank Dr. Elkind for being here with us. And so I want to let you know, thank you, Dr. Elkind.
Thank you so much, Daren. And people can find more info at heart.org.
All righty. Well, I want to let you know, too, if you want more information, please visit them at their website at heart.org, and then also call them 1-800-AHA-USA-1. 1-800-AHA-USA-1. And we'll be right back right after this.
Is it time yet?
It's time.
Let's go and check for dinner.
Oh, it's really big.
Donating pet food is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Can you see anything different as a pill?
No.
You don't know?
Fentanyl is being mixed into everything now. There's only one thing that will save somebody's life. That is naloxone nasal spray.
Fentanyl, it's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
Really just all about the money.
I just didn't realize that one pill could change your whole life.
More kitchen now.
And welcome back. Our upcoming guest now is one who initiated a program that's in response to the difficulties and challenges his family faced and encountered when his two youngest children were diagnosed with autism. As a dedicated husband and a father of 5, his mission has grown way beyond his family, educating and raising awareness within the community about autism and broader disability-related issues. Joining me now, I'm joined by the founder of I Am Defeating Autism Daily, Quentin Mezetin. And Quentin, good to have you.
Thank you, Daren. I really appreciate that warm welcome.
No, I really thank you. And so this really for you is based on personal experience. You had the opportunity to really get educated and then also create an awareness based on personal experience.
Yes. As a father of 5 children, my last 2 children were diagnosed with autism. But before they were diagnosed, I just started to see delays in their milestones. Having 5, I knew what milestones look like, but then my last 2, they started not hitting them as quickly as I would have hoped. But when I spoke to people, they told me it was nothing, just wait, don't worry about it. And that kind of didn't sit well with me because I want my kids to speak. I want them to eat. I want them to do the things like normal kids do. So it took me a couple years of first self-diagnosing and then finally getting a medical diagnosis that my kids had autism. And I didn't like that delay. That delay costed me a lot of things that I didn't know. Cost me a lot of opportunities to possibly get social security for them, early intervention, ABA therapy, things that would have really helped their development early on. I was delayed. And then that just got me angry, I would say. It made me want to fight back because I was just like, why would they do this to me? And the more research I'd done, I realized that this wasn't just me. Most people, the average white child, according to the CDC, was diagnosed and treated at 1 year old when they saw delays, but the average Black child was diagnosed and treated around 4 and 5 years old. So then I took it as a systemic thing, like, wait a minute, if I don't fight, I don't have a lot of people that's going to fight for me.
Right.
So I started doing more research, and that just came, that's where I am defeating autism daily. I'm not here to cure autism. The more I learned about it, it's a superpower, but I'm fighting the low limitations and limited expectations that are put on people that have that label, because I didn't want those put on my sons because of their delays. I wanted to help them become independent so they could live normal, happy lives and follow their own dreams. And for me to do that, I just realized in this world, I'm going to have to fight for them until they can fight for themselves.
And you began this fight. You began this fight with awareness and really creating based out of your own pain and really looking and saying the process was so long. So now you cut across the field and now you're helping families and you're helping individuals out. So when we talk about I Am Dad, Defeating Autism Daily, what does that consist of in terms of in the public space?
Public space. This year, I was just elected into the City Education Council for D75, part of the Department of Education. So I have a seat there, really helping families with the whole curriculum and connection with the schooling system for their children in special education. And I'm also part of the Office of Hate Crimes through the Mayor's Office and PATH, Partners Against the Hate, where I'm helping bridge the gap and raising awareness for ableism, which is to stop ableism, which is discrimination against people with cognitive disabilities and disabilities in all sorts. Now, what it looks like I Am Dad is more just empowering parents. So we're not here to cure autism. What we're here to do is empower parents of the resources and how to access them and how to use them and implement them so they can become better families and more supportive to their children, becoming independent. And then letting them understand the awareness of what the world is going to do and how they can protect themselves going forward.
What are some of the normal challenges that we're seeing that parents of children with autism are facing? What are some of the things that you can enlighten us to?
A lot of children are nonverbal, and there are studies outside of so many, there's studies outside of the school system that are helping kids become verbal by like 87 to 90% of the time. These resources are not available to everyone. And it helped me. My kids were nonverbal until I found people that said, hey, you do not have to accept that limitation. Let us help you. And now my kids are speaking. There are also different delays when it comes to independence using the bathroom. There are a lot of kids that still wear diapers as they become teens and adults. That's something that has been corrected for so many people, but it's just not implemented. So a lot of times I just kind of find like, you know what? We have a lot of things we got to fight just as adults, just as living in America, we have to fight. But we don't have to fight so many of these battles for so long that have been corrected for so many millions of people. So I just bridge the gap with the things that I found. Suffering, like there's so many parents that didn't know they could have Social Security disability, which could be an extra $300 to $500 a month for their children while they were during this diagnosis. That can help put food on the table for them, help them to take them to other therapies or add therapy sessions. And once I realized that these gaps weren't being brought to parents, I just decided like I had to fight for these. Let me share these opportunities with other people so they can just feel more empowered, more supported, and feel connected that, hey, my kids can become independent. I don't have to just live in quiet desperation.
Yeah. And so for people who need to find out more information in regards of how to deal and the resources that are available, what are some of the easiest places they can go to?
Oh, you can go to my website, www.iamdads.com, and you can follow me on social media, IG, iamd.a.d. And I would say if you come to my website, I can actually break down the tools where they're just kind of more condensed. So there's a lot of organizations. There are a lot of organizations out there, and it's so much. So I just wanted to I was confused. So what I just did I just helped myself condense it so I can point you to directly. You could download my ebook, which is the first things you should do to build a foundation once you find out the diagnosis. And it just helps you with all the things from Social Security, from early intervention, from different type of medical OPWD resources that you can do early by yourself so you can have the best foundation for the future.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to thank you so much for being with us and sharing. I think it's important that people understand that, first of all, when you're going through this, that you're not by yourself. Sometimes you have people who have similar experiences and they can learn from the fact that you've had an experience, but now you've taken that experience and now created some exposure and awareness that a lot of people can tap into. So, Quentin, thank you so much for being with us, man.
Thank you for having me, Daren. I really appreciate it.
Oh, much appreciated, my brother. Much appreciated. And want to let you know, if you want more information, do me a favor. Go to iamdads.com, and there you can find out more information about Quentin and the organization. Well, we come to the end of the show today. Want to thank all of our guests for joining us, and most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the Recablecast here on BronxNet Channel 67, and then also Verizon Files Channel 2133, or anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. You can always get a brand new episode of Open with my girl Rita Valentine on Friday. She comes bringing the best of arts and entertainment to you. And until then, I am Daren Jaime saying take care, God bless, and most of all, keep this channel wide open.